Okay, so I'm going to make another video about this trailer. This trailer has been driving me completely crazy for months because it was not connecting to the generator properly. Like the generator was having all sorts of weird problems. There were like a whole bunch of issues that came up on this. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough and talk about this trailer. Now this trailer... a whole bunch of these trailers were sold recently out of Arizona, I think. And well, I mean, recently, like maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. But they have a little plastic dome up here on the top. And it kind of like it's a little flat plastic cap that goes over here. I just put this in here to cover that hole they've had in here. But you can see the outline of where that little dome was. Okay, I'm going to tell you what that was. But that can be an identifier as to one of these trailers that might be behaving like this trailer was. I've seen 3 or 4 trailers come out of that auction that were all demonstrating the exact same issues. And so hopefully what I'm going to tell you today will be beneficial to those folks out there that have one like this. For starters, I took the dome off because it was plastic, it's going to get broken, and it was just kind of got in the way. But that dome inside here contained some antennas. And those antennas were for transmitting to cellular towers data from the system. And it was also for sharing a Wi-Fi signal. So if somebody came up to the trailer, they could latch onto that Wi-Fi signal, essentially. The inside of those trailers do not have these shelving, okay? I actually added, I put this shelving back in. Let me open that up so it doesn't clang really loud. I have a friend of mine that has cannibalized a bunch of these trailers, has extra shelving, and so I picked up an extra shelving, you know, for that. And now, in order to know if your cabinet is compatible with these little shelving guys, it's definitely there's the older style cabinet that has the thing that hangs out the side here. That will not fit. The newer style cabinet that's flush and flat right here where the fans go is compatible with the shelving. And I love the shelving. It just looks so sharp in there. And another way to know if your trailer's compatible is behind this screw. There's like this little, I don't know if you can see in there, but like there's a little thing, I don't know what you call that, that's sticking out. Anyway, that's what you put the screw in to hold the shelving. And the shelving comes in 3 pieces. You've got this piece that runs right from the middle there, and it goes in front of that, and then another side for this side. And then this right here has like a little shelf, and then these will screw into the shelf and stuff. And then if you have a trailer with lights, these things come out, and then that big box is right there for controlling the light timers and stuff. Anyway, let's talk about this trailer for a minute. This trailer had a whole bunch of problems, and it was driving me completely crazy. For starters, the master had a bad temp sensor. That was really disappointing. The temp sensor circuit had gone bad. I don't know if it got fried. There were some other issues with this trailer with the auto start capabilities in the generator, which you can see right there. That's the auto start controller in the back of the generator. We're going to talk about that in a minute as well. Anyway, this trailer, it took me a while to finally diagnose and figure out that not only was the temp sensor circuit bad, but also the relays for telling it to turn on and off the generator. So this trailer's gone through, I don't know, 3 or 4 different hands where they originally bought it at the auction, then they modified it to do all that controller information that was over here. They also hooked on to, when they did that, they hooked on in here to circuit number 6. I just happen to have an extra plate, so I put that in here, but they had an extra circuit right here, which controlled all the DC components. It looks like a big rat's nest of all the stuff and wiring down here. Just didn't look very good. And being that this customer wasn't going to use it, I just suggested he pull it out because it just looks a lot better. Anyway, oh, and also pulling out that equipment, if you're not using it, that's just a drain on your battery. So, you know, like you having to sit there and run all this transmitting data and communication devices back and forth, and then it was trying to talk to a cell tower. I mean, it was just using up battery. It was worth it just pulling it out. So anyway, let's go back to this guy. I had to replace the Sunny Island. That was really a pickle. I mean, these suckers are hard to swap out. They come out real easy, but it's just they're expensive. So that was unfortunate for this customer that we had to replace this Sunny Island. But once we replaced it, then the temp circuit started working, and also the relay started working again. Just a little side note for those that, I mean, people that are paying attention to this video, if you get to this far and you're still finding it useful, in order to diagnose that this circuit was bad, I swapped the roles of these two. So I made him the master and I made him the slave, and I wired up the temp sensor to this guy, and he was working, but there were some other issues having this circuit fried, and so we decided to swap out the Sunny Island, which, yeah, was expensive. Anyway, so now this is the slave again. This is the master. Things are working the way it's supposed to. However, every time that it would try to connect to the generator, you would hear the generator, it would be like running normal, and then the G would click in. And as soon as the G would click in, you'd hear the generator go, and it was basically getting some feedback energy from the slave, ironically. Now, I still have a couple more tests I'm going to do to verify this. I don't know if it's because the trailer's not grounded. Like if it had an earth ground, maybe it would behave a little bit better. Some of the new trailers that had come out have actually had like a ground on the trailer fork down here, and then you can poke that into the ground. And that may have helped the slave regulate it. But essentially what was happening is that the slave was causing power to go back to the generator and so then the generator was running away, and that was a real pickle. We diagnosed that, and you know what? This is actually a reasonably awesome workaround I'm going to tell you guys about. So let me come over here to the generator real quick. Oh, this is going to bang. Let me close that nicely. So on the generator control panel, you will see here that there is a 120 volt only and a 120 and 240. It's important to discuss this setting. You can just flip that over here, you're 240. When you're here, what essentially happens is both the circuits down here, like, because you can still have leg 1 and leg 2 coming out, but leg 1 and leg 2 will be 120 volts, each of them. Now, if you're here, leg 1 will be 120 volts in the opposite phase of leg 2, and that's how you get the differential of 240 volts. Let me get my hand so it looks, So 120 is here, and then 240 is basically the differential between the two legs. So I still don't know if the slave was having a hard time dialing in the frequency shift, and that was causing some reverse power to come back to the generator, and that's what was causing it to run away. But my solution was we're going to stick with 120 only right now for this setup. And I learned something pretty cool about the way the inverters work, and I'll describe that here later in the video. But I'm going to pause the video real quick and open up this control panel and discuss what happens when we do this. Okay, so I took these two screws out at the top, and then this whole control panel will fold down, and it exposes everything in here. Now, be a little careful with this wiring configuration, because on some of the older installations on trailers, they actually have a second line coming from the cabinet back to the generator, and it plugs onto this control panel, but it's powered from the Sunny Islands. So if the Sunny Islands are on and they're inverting and they're creating power, this could be energized even though the generator is not running. So just get that out of the way. This control right here is that switcher. So if we come over on this other side, you can see there, you can switch between the 120 volts and the 120 only versus 120 volt 240. And essentially what this does is it brings in power from the stator, And I don't want to get too technical here, but when you're in 120 only, it causes the stator, it basically puts the two legs in parallel, and then it runs both of them so that you get 120 volts equally on your coil. Whereas if you say you were on the 240 volt system here and you plugged something into the generator that only took 120 volts, you would be consuming power from one side of your stator, and they call that an imbalanced load. Whenever you use a generator, it's best on the coil if you can have what they would refer to as a balanced load. So if you have a whole bunch of devices or for your load that you connect, it's always good to try to use both sides of the circuit, not just one side of your 240 volt leg. You want to equally balance it. It's just better for everything. So anyway, you'll notice here that this line, this is the neutral, okay, that comes in, and this is the line that goes up to the front and then plugs into the back of the cabinet over there, okay. Now, what I've done is I intentionally disconnected the black line here. So this is not connected at all to the front cabinet. I am only injecting 120 volts. Now, by doing that, I eliminated the slave from causing the feedback issue from the cabinet. I still don't fully understand why the slave was causing the imbalance. It could be that the slave has something going wrong with it, but other than that, it's working fine. So what we did was we have power that is only going to the master, and the slave is not connected at all. The ground is connected, and the neutral is connected. And so here's the cool thing. Let me come back here to the front. So we all know that we get that little G that shows up whenever the generator connects. In fact, in an earlier video today, I actually had it connect, and you can see a little G show here. That means that the master is pulling power from the generator. Now, not all of you out there have 240 volt generators. There's a lot of people that have added a 120 volt generator to their trailers after the fact because their trailer didn't come with the Kubotas on it. And I always thought that when you connected a 120 volt generator to the cabinet and the G clicks on, the slave would be like, oh, there's nothing to do, I have no power. So I always thought that half of your circuit up here in the cabinet would disappear because there's a relay inside of this guy that switches from AC1 to AC2, and that's how you'll hear it, like whenever it click, when the G appears, you can actually see it click, and that relay engages, and that's what allows the generator power to come, and they call it a pass-through, where it passes through into the cabinet. Well, here's the really cool thing. The master gets the G, the slave did not get a G because I disconnected the slave's power in the back. So if you have one of these trailers and you're not able to charge from your generator, sorry, I probably should have put this up front. Try putting your generator into 120 volt only mode and specifically disconnect the leg off of the inside of your control panel right here. Now, in this case, it was the black line. I don't know if yours will be the black or the red. It's a 50-50 shot, okay? If you disconnect the wrong one, what will happen is the master will never see power, but the slave will see power, but the slave won't engage to that power because it always wants to follow the lead of the master. So if by removing that one wire from the back of your circuit breaker over here, you suddenly no longer connect it all to the cabinet, it means you just disconnected the wrong wire and you just need to swap it and put the, like, if you disconnected the black, then put the black back on and disconnect the red. And it shouldn't really matter which leg you send in because, and this goes back to that talk earlier about the balanced load, when you're in the 120 volt only mode, it puts a balanced load on the stator, and so it won't cause an imbalanced load to occur from your stator, which anyways, it's really cool. But here's what was amazing. The slave does not get the G, but it's still connected to the battery and it's still inverting. So you still have your 240 volts off of your cabinet, even though your master is the only one charging the batteries. Really cool. Works around a lot of the issues that I was running into. I hope that this information will be very beneficial to someone out there who has one of these little trailers with the dome on the top, okay? I'm going to make a couple more videos in more detail because this trailer, I'm telling you, this trailer was a humdinger. Woo-wee! Let's see, is there anything else I want to talk about on this? No, I think that's it. And then when the master says disconnect from the generator, the G will disappear, and then these will become independent again. And because the slave is always following the lead of the master is paying attention to the AC2 line. So if the generator's frequency is shifting and fluctuating a little bit, he just kind of keeps up with it. And the slave will always follow the lead of the master. And so even if your generator's fluctuating a little bit and he's not getting any power, he can still be a full, valid, legitimate 240 volt system so that your plugs over here are still 240 volt, even when your generator's running. Okay, everybody, crazy long video. I've got a couple more videos I'm going to post right now. I hope folks are finding these useful. And yeah, subscribe to my channel. It helps to have subscribers. I think if I get over 500, I actually start making money on the ads. That would be nice. Well, you know what? If you guys like my channel so much, send me some money because I'm not making anything on the ads right now. It would sure be nice to, get some money for the videos I'm posting. So if you're feeling generous and you felt like one of my videos have really saved your bacon, reach out to me and we'll see how we can have you send me some money through Venmo or something. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a good week. Bye.